The trade war. Oh, God, no! The trade war has hit TikTok, and it's all because of tariffs, the word we're all already sick to death of, and they're affecting everything from the economy to economics. And you've probably tried to keep up with it, but you're busy, and there's so many bits to this. You know, is an iPhone actually going to cost $100,000 now? We have all the info for you. All the info you need in one handy place, right here on Scroll Deep, the show that keeps up with internet nonsense so you don't have to. Now, I'm going to be dropping some economic terms in this, so to maintain your attention, every so often I'm going to just be yelling the names of pop culture ships at you. To steal. In 1890, President McKinley went ham on tariffs. That's what the books say if you look up in history books. Went ham, which jacked all the prices up and made Americans very mad. Then he went back on all of it, saying, quote, "Reciprocity treaties are in harmony with the spirit of the times. Measures of retaliation are not." Anyway, Donald Trump looked at that and went, "Yay, tariffs! Tariffs go burr!" Now, what are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes. Hermione. Draco and Hermione. They're literally just taxes. They're taxes that you put on things that you import, which is to say buy from other places. If you're buying bananas, one of the many things that America does not produce, you would make them pay a tax to bring those bananas into the country. And basically, all economists think tariffs are bad versus a nice free trade arrangement. In fact, American economist Milton Friedman once said about tariffs, quote, "We call a tariff a protective measure. It does protect. It protects the consumer against low prices." Boom! Whoa! You got Miltoned! Anyway, as you've probably heard, Donald Trump has decided to slap massive tariffs on everywhere in the world, including some islands that are only populated by penguins. But don't worry, the penguins have got a great plan to get out of it. I don't know enough about Madagascar. Is that, what do they say? His whole thing, and like, for the love of God, bear with me, but his whole thing is that the US needs to reduce their trade deficit. Please don't leave. Basically, it's a very boring term, but it just means the difference between what you receive from other countries, import, and what you sell to another country, export. Dickie, that's Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. And the US has a trade deficit with lots of places for normal reasons. The small African country of Lesotho sells America diamonds. Very expensive, but it buys very little back from the US because the main thing that the US sells are things like fighter jets. And Lesotho's good, actually. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but that's fine. And you can't just tariff your way out of that unless you start making diamonds in the US. And I cannot emphasize enough how there is no reason for this. There is no benefit to this whatsoever. It's a real like 3D chess thing where you're like, oh, there must be like a real reason he's doing this. No, it doesn't do anything good. I am delighted to announce something that I've been working on for literally years, which is Vine, 6 Seconds That Changed the World, a brand new podcast series about the rise and fall of Vine, which is coming on the 23rd of April. But the pod feed is live right now on Global Player or wherever you get your podcasts, so you can follow the feed now and get all the episodes as soon as they're live. This project has genuinely been a real labor of love for me and for the team. We interviewed Viners, tech experts, even one of the founders of Vine. It's a proper actual bit of journalism, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. That is Vine, 6 Seconds That Changed the World, a real podcast coming 23rd of April. Podcast about Vine, that's Dennis. Now back to the tariffs. A tax on imports, that's tariffs. Anyway, Trump turned the tariffs on, and then he turned them off for a bit, and then he's sort of half turned them back on, and the stock market has just been crashing out, as you might say. How do I make teens understand this? The stock market is crashing out, fam. And it's just been crashing out over and over again, and one place that's had more than enough of this is China, who at the time of recording are under something like 150% tariffs, although they just keep changing it every day. And you'll notice that 150% is quite a lot. Blair and Chuck. And China has responded by slapping huge tariffs on the US, and now we have what's known as a trade war. We are literally living in the plot of Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, the most boring Star Wars film, at least in terms of plot.
This guy stinks!
You know, back in '99, when old Georgie Porgy was like, I'm going to make a film about trade wars and tariffs and stuff, everyone was like, what are you doing? That's not what Star Wars is about. Star Wars should be about racist caricatures who own boy slaves and make them race. That's what Star Wars is about. And in this trade war between the US and China, some Chinese business owners have had enough, and they've taken to social media, including TikTok, to expose the factories where American luxury brands are made, or basically foreign luxury brands. And they've been highlighting just how cheap it is to produce some of these products, and about how some of these luxury products are all just made in the same factory.
Lululemon sells this jacket for nearly $100, but here only costs you $6 to $5.
Your Nike and Adidas shoes, 80% are made in China and cost only $15. They just add a logo in the US.
They've been doing this thing of like, oh, you know, you pay, I don't know, like $1 million for a Birkin bag, but it actually only costs $5 to make. which is shocking, but I feel like we knew that, didn't we? I feel like the value of these luxury goods has always just been the label, which is silly. I'm not saying it's good, but anyway, now what they're saying is we will cut out the middleman, aka the US, and we will just sell this stuff to you directly from the factories, which I imagine all these companies absolutely love. Millen, Dylan and Mark S. from Severance. And in all the chaos and with the US economy doing badly, a lot of Americans are very upset by all this, a lot of American business owners, small business owners, and I really genuinely sympathize with anyone in the US who is suffering because of this, unless you voted for Donald Trump, in which case I have no sympathy for you whatsoever because he's told you he was going to do this. He has been talking about tariffs since like 2000. It's so weird, right? Donald Trump, if anything, in the minds of most voters, is basically just a complete abstraction. It doesn't really matter what he says or does. People just decide on what their idea of Donald Trump is, and then they vote for that. Like, you see voters who are like, well, he's just going to get rid of taxes and he's going to give us all money. And it's like, what are you basing this on? But the main thing I think you see with voters in America is they have this perception that Donald Trump is going to screw over a bunch of people and it's going to make other people's lives better. But everyone seems to believe that they are in the lives better group and no one seems to believe that they're in the screwed over group. There was a great poll this week and the statement said, America would be better off if more people worked in manufacturing. And 80% of Americans agreed with that. And then there was another statement, I would be better off if I worked in a factory. And only 25% of Americans agreed with that, and 73% disagreed. So again, it's like, we should get more people working in factories. Oh, heavens, not me. Not me. What are the bad ones? Which is not a way to exist. But yeah, one of the sort of vague semblances of this plan is this idea that they're just going to bring the manufacturing of, I guess, everything into America, which is crazy because there's some things like banana or coffee, just banana. Sorry, I went full minion mode there for a second. Sorry, people have called me a Nepo baby because my father is Bob, the minion. Is he called Bob? I'm 25 years old, right? I'm too old to know this stuff. Bughead, Jughead, and a bug, I guess. Betty, sorry, yeah. There's this idea that they're gonna produce everything in the US, but like, first of all, I mean, sometimes you're presented with an idea that's so stupid that it's almost paralyzing trying to respond to it. But the idea that you could produce everything in the US is crazy. It would also take like 20 years to set that all up. But also, part of the reason why so many goods are so cheap is because it uses very exploitative labor in other parts of the world, right? If you were using US labor to make phones, those phones would be tens of thousands of dollars because you would have to actually pay those people properly. You know what I mean? So what we should do is maintain the existing system we have where things are cheap and people get exploited, but at least we're not near those people. That's good. That's the problem with all of this, which is that, like, you know, globalization in many ways is bad. Like, these globalized, you know, chains of commerce, they're not good, but you don't fix it by doing this. You fix it by and then just dub in the correct solution. One random twist to all of this is that the US TikTok ban, which I've long said is just not going to happen, has been delayed again by all the tariff nonsense, because China basically turned down the deal that was going to happen with an American company buying TikTok, because China is understandably a little bit mad at America for all this tariff nonsense. You think they'd be more willing to ban it now because they're mad at China, but I guess they're always mad at China. But on top of the trade war, we've also entered something of a meme war with China. Well, not me. I'm not part of it. I would join the Peace Corps in the meme war. China has started memeing back. We saw an AI-generated video of what the Chinese think American factory workers would be like. Now, American factory workers do exist, so we have actual footage of this, but they were basically making fun of Americans trying to make iPhones and stuff. But what do you make of all this? Are you American? Are you a Trump voter? Statistically, based on our viewing figures, probably not. Let me know your thoughts down below on the tariffs and on the meme war, and we get to the secret question now. The people with the best attention spans who've made it all the way to the end, and we've been talking about ships. What's the biggest boat you think you could drive with no training?
Does the size matter?
Well, it's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean. So get your answers into the comments down below, and remember, Vine, 6 seconds to change the world, 23rd of April, on all good podcast platforms, and some of the bad ones as well. Some of the evil podcast platforms, where when you listen to the podcast, it hurts a bit. Please listen to the show, they'll fire me, bye.